Okay, hi everyone. Good afternoon. Welcome to this afternoon's set of sessions, and I'm happy to welcome Jessica and Lee. Over to you, Jessica and Lee.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jessica Swearingen, and I am one of the co-presenters on today's, this session's first presentation. I was imagining we're not the first of the day, though it's early here in the United States. Today, we're going to talk about exploring the impact of gender-inclusive language programming at academic libraries, at one of which we work. So, oops, there we go. All right. So as I mentioned before, my name is Jessica Swearingen. My pronouns are she, her, and I am an assistant professor of information studies and the outreach librarian at Georgia Southern University's Armstrong campus. And my colleague Lee is also here with me today.
Hello, I'm Lee Bareford. My pronouns are he, him, they, them. I am currently the head of the Learning Commons for the Georgia Southern University Libraries here on the Armstrong campus in Savannah, Georgia.
Yes. So for a bit of context, Georgia Southern University is a R2, which means High Research Activity University in the state of Georgia, which is in the southeastern part of the United States of America. The Armstrong campus, where this research takes place, is in Savannah, Georgia. And the Armstrong campus used to be its own institution, Armstrong University, and it was consolidated as part of Georgia Southern University in 2018. And since that time, we have served as kind of like a smaller secondary campus that feels very much kind of like a small liberal arts college, but is tied in with the larger state school. So we're kind of in an interesting, unique situation here, in my opinion. Oh, Lord. There we go. All right. Sorry about the advancing slides thing. All right. So to outline the presentation that we're going to give, first we're going to go over a couple of context and definitions, uh, tidying housework. We're also going to talk about the workshop that we conducted called Yours, Mine, and Ours. We're going to talk about International Pronouns Day pop-up celebrations that took place at the Armstrong campus. And these are our two main gender inclusive language programming activities that we do here. We'll also talk a bit about the survey design and our attempt at implementation and challenges that we have been facing to programming as of late. So let's go ahead and get started. The first thing we should probably set context for is, what do we mean by inclusive language in the first place? This is a pretty open, nebulous term. So for us, inclusive language is language usage that is mindful and respectful to diverse experiences and perspectives of other people. The aim for inclusive language is to limit the alienating effects that careless language use can sometimes have on other people. Inclusive language also involves understanding the historical and sociological impact of personal pronouns and of idioms. So in addition to gender inclusive language, we also promote the awareness of idiom usage as well. Inclusive language applies to norms of etiquette to pronoun use as well. So you'll hear us talk a lot about personal pronouns in this presentation.
So as part of our inclusive language outreach programming, we offer definitions for the terms that we use. So pronouns is one of the main ones. We stick to Merriam-Webster's dictionary definitions of that term, which is a word used instead of a noun or noun phrase. So for examples, we focus mostly on personal pronouns, how we refer to ourselves, people we're speaking to, or to others that we're referring to in conversation. We define idiom as a phrase used to convey a non-literal meaning which may not be apparent by the words chosen to express the phrase. So that one's a little bit more opaque, particularly when we're engaging with students. So we often give examples from English language, such as up in the air for undecided, or give way for yielding, or to let somebody pass. So we stick to the fairly straightforward examples offered by Merriam-Webster in that case as well. We incorporate that language in a workshop that we developed at the university libraries called Yours, Mine, and Ours, an exploration of personal pronouns and idioms. So for some background to the workshop, it was created by the University Libraries Diversity Council, or ULDC, which is one of our standing committees. It was created in 2021. The presentation has a QR code there. If you scan that, you can see the presentation slides for the workshop. It'll take you to a folder that has the resources for the workshop as well. So you're welcome to explore that as I discuss it in the presentation. The photo that you see there is me and my colleague Peyton Sapp, who created the workshop together with the ULDC members who did some background research for us and provided the references. The workshop is an outcome of our alignment with the university's Inclusive Excellence Action Plan. So there were some initiatives related to our strategic plan that focused on diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives at the university. Again, this was around 2021 that all of this happened. So each department and unit of the university was required to create their own Inclusive Excellence Action Plan, and that included some of these optional workshops that our personnel could participate in. So this wasn't a training, because training is a fraught word at a state university when it comes to diversity, equity, and inclusion training. So this is a professional development opportunity that was presented as optional for any libraries personnel. So the design of the workshop was to be more hands-on. There are lecture components. There are 2 discussions within the workshop, and also a knowledge application activity, which is a game of bingo. So it's kind of a fun icebreaker way to engage with the audience and start conversations around inclusive language use. So if you're looking at the slides right now, there's a full transcript in the comments area of each slide, and our references are there. So there'll be hyperlinks to all the sources of the information that we include. The environment of the workshop is to be inclusive. Of course, we want to build awareness and welcome all types of people instead of trying to convince or persuade them. We're not training them. We're building awareness. So we acknowledge differing perspectives right out of the gate and offer the chance to disagree. We acknowledge that not everyone attending the workshop will feel the same way about non-gendered pronoun use like we do, but we want to build that awareness in the interest of creating a more inclusive campus environment at our university. So above all, we engage with empathy and tap into our individual experience, our own experiences using pronouns and idioms, and also our upbringings, which are oftentimes the main source of our ideas and opinions about inclusive language. So this is the title slide, just to give you a sense of the design. The workshop's in 2 sections, one focused on personal pronouns, the other on idioms. We also focus on neo-pronouns within that first section. We have 4 objectives in the workshop. The first is, of course, to learn about pronouns. The second is to use about inclusive use of personal pronouns, acknowledging them and why it's important to do so. We also take a look at idioms, those idiomatic phrases, which are very common in American conversations that many people don't know the cultural, historical, sociological aspects and origins of those phrases. And then, of course, the 4th objective is to apply the knowledge in a game of pronouns and idioms bingo, which encourages conversation and teamwork, reinforcing the content that we covered. This is an example of one of the lecture-oriented slides. So you see it's very text-dense. The reason that is the case is this was provided to our student assistants at the library, so they could essentially view this workshop if they couldn't attend in person due to their class schedules or work schedules at the libraries. So they can read along with this and then also follow the hyperlinks in the comments. But this particular one gives some historical context to pronoun use. It shows that gender-neutral pronouns were used as early as the 14th century. In fact, the Oxford English Dictionary says that the first use of the gender-neutral they appears in 1375 in an English translation of a French romance called William and the Werewolf, which incidentally is the first literary work about a werewolf as well. And then those gender-neutral pronouns appeared very commonly throughout literature and in language debate over decades and centuries prior to today. We also have two discussion aspects. So this is the discussion stopping point for the pronouns and neopronouns. So we ask 3 questions in succession. What experiences have you had with pronouns? Which experiences did you learn something from? And have your thoughts about pronouns changed? So Peyton and I, when we present these workshops, come prepared with our own personal experiences. Peyton talked about her gender fluid identity, for example, very welcoming, engaging personality, and we're able to provide our own personal examples to attendees to get the conversation started. One thing that we like to do is focus on our specific Southern U.S. heritage and upbringing, which includes a lot of very traditional idiomatic expressions and gendered pronoun use. So we kind of break the ice that way and encourage conversation. We also have an application of knowledge in the pronouns bingo. So in that QR code links to the folder, you'll see a PDF document that has several of these bingo cards. So they're randomized for variety there. So there's also a list of 20 questions. So in the slide that focused on the historical background, there were kind of bolded text phrases. Those are the keywords that are the answers to the bingo, but it encourages conversations and interaction and also kind of decompresses after some of our conversations in the workshop. The audience reception varied depending on who we were presenting the workshop to. So they were originally designed for libraries personnel as an optional professional development opportunity. So in that case, everybody was engaged because they wanted to. They were proud of what we produced as a libraries and offered to others. So those sessions were open, lively, and supportive. We were invited after those sessions to present the workshop at the Staff Council Professional Development Day. So they had a series of workshops over 2 days on both campuses where staff at the university could attend a variety of different sessions. So this session was optional. They could choose to take this session or not. So we had pretty good attendance, but conversation in those sessions was led by key attendees. There was some reluctance to engage, mostly because people selected their sessions and were coming from different departments, didn't necessarily know each other from working relationships or personally when they got in that environment. So we did have to kind of bring some discussion out of that group. We had an invitational session following that was requested by our Office of the Registrar. So that was a team building event during the holiday break in November. So that wasn't necessarily optional. We weren't certain that the workshop materials were presented to the attendees in advance, although we did provide them in advance. So that session was a bit more divisive. Some were uninterested in engaging in conversation, others engaged enthusiastically. There were certainly some staff people in that department who are non-binary or gender fluid that were outspoken and are known people on our campus and were able to start some conversation. The audience in general across sessions were surprised by the historical origins of the gender-neutral pronouns. They didn't realize that they were in use for hundreds of years prior to the cultural debate that's been happening recently. No one had prior knowledge of that. Takeaways from the workshops is it's a good idea to preview content with stakeholders prior to scheduling it. It may not be a good fit for everyone. So when we did the session for Office of the Registrar, we said share this out in advance, but I think it should, oftentimes include a disclaimer. Hey, this is a welcoming environment. We encourage disagreement and we want to talk about it. That's essentially what we're here for. Icebreakers help ease the tension. So those discussions can touch on some personal matters, but the bingo's fun. So in the future, we'd probably include an icebreaker like introducing yourself to your group at your table by your pronouns or something like that, just to get a bit of interaction ahead of the content. People also relate to shared experiences. So those personal examples, if we come up with more of those and have those, has anybody heard this phrase growing up? Was this phrase used in your household or the town you grew up in, for example, and have those to kind of spark conversation and those kind of light bulb moments where they realize, you know what, I was exposed to some things I didn't realize the origins of. And then, of course, asking for feedback is important, which led to the survey creation that Jessica and I will talk about in a moment.
Yes. So the second programming that we do is pop-up libraries across the Armstrong campus. So pop-up libraries take place regularly, about monthly across the Armstrong campus. University libraries will bring books that are aligned with a certain theme. So in February, we often do like a Valentine's Day one. Sometimes we'll do a Black History Month theme. Sometimes we'll do one time it was like a New Year's resolution kind of thing in January. That was pretty fun. We brought books out from the collection about hobbies or different activities that you could, take part in as part of your resolution. So the pop-up libraries are kind of like a regular thing that we do here. But one that we've been doing since 2002, no, not 2002, 2022, that has been the International Pronouns Day pop-up. International Pronouns Day is always the third Wednesday of October. And so we celebrate with a pop-up library where we bring books out from the library collection for people to check out if they like. And we also bring, some library swag giveaways. So we have handmade buttons, we have pens, we have certain like fidget toys that we print through our 3D printing program to kind of incentivize students to pursue that program. So there's also some information about some of our services like research consultations. So it's partially kind of doing some things for the library in terms of spreading awareness of our services and collections. But for International Pronouns Day specifically, we also create mini pronouns buttons with a variety of different pronouns on them. So we have what I would consider maybe like the big three represented, she, her, he, him, they, them. But there's also some she, theys, there's some he, they buttons. We also have some z, zer, that's the first one I remembered, but we have a lot of air, a couple of neopronouns ready to go as well that occasionally people will request for us to make a button while we're sitting there with their specific pronouns on it. So that has been really cool to see. Since 2023, we have co-sponsored the pop-up with the university's counseling center, and that has been a pretty cool partnership with them. So they get to bring their resources out to the pop-up as well. So instead of just one table out there, we have two, and one year it was three with our multicultural affairs center, and that was really fun to have kind of like almost like a festival. I think is overstating it for three tables, but maybe one day we'll get there. So the audience reception to the International Pronouns Day pop-up is mostly positive. By 2023, so our second iteration of the pop-up for International Pronouns Day, we had such positive word of mouth about the event that it reached the university's counseling center completely separate from my intervention. They came to us and said, we've heard a lot of good things about the pop-up you did last year. Can we be part of this? It's like, absolutely, please do. So that was really nice. Students typically are happy to engage with us when they're walking by between classes or after their lunch break. They'll browse the materials. They'll take a brochure that I forgot to mention in the last slide. We distribute brochures that essentially condense the information in the Yours, Mine, and Ours workshop on pronoun education. And there was one time where a group of students came to the table, picked up a brochure, went away with it. And about 15 minutes later, they had come back and they had like circled certain things. And they were like, I have a question about this. And I was surprised to learn this. And do you have any books on this? Oh my gosh, that's my favorite kind of learning moment is when students come back to me from these pop-ups and ask more questions. So typically students are very happy to do that. They'll even check in with our attendance system for outreach programming. This is a university-wide system, and it's very secure. We call it Eagle Engage, but it's essentially a system by where you can tap your student ID and it will check you in to a co-curricular event. So it could be from the libraries, it could be from campus recreation, it could be from the Office of Student Affairs, Dean's office, Dean of Students office. Lots of different offices offer these events that you can check into. So based on that data of them checking in, our student participation averages between 30 and 40 students, which doesn't sound like a lot, but the Armstrong campus is quite small by comparison to the larger traditional state school campus in Statesboro, Georgia. So we have a smaller population that we're dealing with here. And that's also an average. One year it was much higher than that, and the next year it was lower. I think it's started to level out now that we have been in our fourth iteration, I think. Students who are not willing to participate, even just passing by, are very polite. They'll just say a short, no thank you, have a nice day. And we have been pleasantly surprised to find that there's no hostility from the students passing by the pop-ups. They, for the most part, are either too busy or not interested, or like I said, they are happy to engage. Those are kind of the three varieties of students that you're going to encounter. So that has been a pleasant surprise. Some takeaways that we've learned from doing these pop-ups over time is that students are a little bit hesitant to check in for these events. Some of them may not really know what checking in entails, and so they're there be like a record that they attended. And given the current political climate in the United States, I can understand where they're coming from. A head count might be better to gauge attendance at these events, and we do have those little, clickers for counting attendance. Another good takeaway is to make the first move when you're interacting at one of these. I've been at tables where I had a partner and was just talking to my partner at the table and not really like addressing the students that would go by. And on those situations, on those occasions, students are much more likely to just keep it moving, not really ask like what's going on at this table. They're kind of like, blinders up, we're just going to keep moving forward to wherever my destination is. But I can say that I definitely got a lot more student engagement when I make the first move with students and tell them, good morning, hi, what are you doing? Would you like to get some candy? Would you like to learn about pronouns today? Just kind of engage with them first, and they feel much more comfortable participating. Also consider the location of your pop-up. You'd like to aim for a place with a high volume of student traffic. And the last thing that we haven't quite cracked yet is how to incentivize survey participation. And we'll get back to that when we talk about challenges.
So we collect data from all of our events for assessment purposes, but we didn't have anything in place to evaluate or measure our inclusive language programs. So Jessica and I applied for our institutional review board approval to conduct research around these programs. So we received that and created a survey in Qualtrics that we deliver at workshops and tabling events through QR code. So as Jessica mentioned, students can scan the QR code and walk off. If they, say, okay, sure, I'll participate, and then decide not to, it's up to them, and also affords them a bit of privacy if they can forward the link on or step away and complete the survey. So 6 questions there, which were essentially measured what their response to the events were, what their attitudes towards pronouns were before the events, what they learned as a result of interacting with us in the workshops or tabling events, Did your attitude towards pronouns change? And did you learn anything about the benefits of acknowledging personal pronouns? The last question was, would you recommend this event to a friend or colleague? So we've got a few responses to the survey so far. We're expecting to report on greater data, but we've encountered some challenges, which Jessica will talk about.
Yes. So some of the challenges that we have been facing recently include the following. Marketing the workshops within the current political climate has proven to be kind of difficult. As Lee mentioned before, the workshops that we offer are not trainings, and we make a very pointed effort to not describe them as such. However, I think the perception in a lot of people's minds is that this, if it's being offered and it's like a work thing, that it is a training. And that can cause some friction as well. We're just meaning to provide education and foster conversations. But again, with our current political climate in the United States, it's often gets misconstrued as indoctrination, which is challenging when, anyway, you can imagine. Incentivizing student survey participation at pop-ups is also challenging, and this is partially due to the politicized nature of pronouns. They're not inherently political, but they have been politicized a lot lately. And, so that doesn't help. But even beyond that, students tend to not want to take a survey unless there's something in it for them. So trying to balance the privacy of keeping these surveys anonymous with some sort of benefit where we can like incentivize the students to I don't know, like raffles are kind of off the table in terms of submit the survey and you can be chosen for a, swag bag or something like that. We kind of can't offer that because we can't gather that information on like who these students are. So somehow trying to incentivize students to participate in these surveys is also kind of hard. We also are facing the challenge of fear and self-censorship that stifles participation in these events. So even if you're an individual who does not have like a particular problem with the workshop or with the pop-ups, you might feel fear in participating or acknowledging that you attended one of these events due to the pressure from your peers or from your boss or your family, whatever the situation may be. And there's also been, on the other end of that, rollbacks of DEI initiatives at the state and USG, which stands for University System of Georgia level. So these rollbacks of DEI initiatives spread from whether or not we're able to do some of these programs is kind of in question. As Lee mentioned earlier, the workshop was aligned with our inclusive excellence plan that we had before and our overall strategic plan with the university. And I believe they're in the midst of revising that. And my understanding is that the not institutional, inclusive excellence piece of that is going to be very heavily revised. So yeah, that's where we are in terms of challenges. So on that somber note, I will say, at least in terms of participation that we've had so far and the actual folks who have attended the workshops and have attended the pop-up libraries, I do want to reiterate that feedback has largely been positive. So that does give me some hope for continuing these programming efforts in the future, especially if we have data to back up that they are helpful and important to students. So if you have questions for us presenters, then these are our email addresses. I am at jswearingen@georgiasouthern.edu, and Lee is at nbareford@georgiasouthern.edu. So please let us know if you have questions. We'd be happy to answer them, collaborate on other projects, and kind of learn how to foster inclusive language at more campuses. Thank you so much for your time. Stop sharing.